Welcome to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage, and today we're going to be having a look at Ethereum. Let's get into the price action and see what's going on. The primary thing that I'm still looking for here is this potential that we have an A, B, and a C, looking for this move to come back down towards this 121 area, or in between this and this 1618, which could be all the way down here to this 1559. What I'm looking for here is the potential to actually see another move into this channel, and then looking for that possibility of a reversal to the upside. Now, if we are looking at this and saying that we have a C wave here, we need to be aware that the structure is now getting a bit choppy. So I am starting to think that within this primary move here, possibly what we could have is just a three-wave structure, in which case this would make more sense as a corrective wave. Alternatively, that B wave idea of still being in play could possibly still be an option, but I'd really want to see this start to break to the upside if we're still looking for that flat. Okay, so first we're going to talk about this C wave to the downside. Now, what I would be looking for here is, initially I was looking for something like this, where we're getting 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, and another 2 here, and then actually looking to break down. Now, this wouldn't make any sense unless we are actually completed this wave 2 into this point. This is because of the size of the move to the side here. So because of this fact, potentially we could still argue we have a WXY here, but this size of this structure would be a lot bigger in comparison to this one. What we would have to be aware of, though, is potentially what we could then argue is that within this count, we could have had something like this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In which case, what we could possibly have here is some form of a diagonal pattern, as a contracting diagonal pattern within this, which is fine. We do get the potential overlap. It would probably make more sense to count it like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 in this manner. Then what we'd be looking for is the potential that this could actually become 1, 2. So if we do get a continuation to the upside here and break back above this wave 2 high, which is sitting here at this 1846, what we could still see is a break to the downside. If we had to get a move up to that 1-to-1, what we'd be potentially looking for as a impulse would be a move down towards this 1477. Now, that would give us the idea of this playing out as a bigger impulse, but we don't have that structure at the moment. Now, the other way that we could talk about this move actually breaking down here would be looking at this as a potential diagonal pattern, which what we'd be looking for would be something like this. Now, once again, I'm starting to like this count less and less because of the fact of the proportion within this move. Now, what I was looking for initially was that we're going to get this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and then looking for a fifth as an expanding diagonal. Technically speaking, it hasn't invalidated. Invalidation comes at crossing this 1933. However, it is dragging quite sideways now. Now, what I would want to see is if this is playing out, what we would need to see here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, coming back into this channel, overlapping this wave 1 and not breaking this wave 2. As long as we didn't break this wave 2, technically speaking, this could be a potential, but like I said, we're starting to get very disproportionate in the case that this is a fourth wave, and then looking for that possibility of another 3-wave move for a wave 5 to the downside. Now, if we are looking at this as potentially a diagonal pattern, what we would need to see here is this overlap with this wave 1 primarily, and then we'd need to see a 3-wave move that is longer than this wave 3. So depending on how high we come here, so if we had to come up to the C wave here, what we could then argue is that we would have to move below the 1690. So this is technically still possible, but the way the structure is forming here, it is becoming less likely the more time that plays out here. So that is what we're looking for that possibility of this playing out as a C wave. Now, the other way we could argue is that possibly this move down is slightly different. And like I said, if we potentially count this move in the beginning here rather as A, B, and C, what we could then have is that we have this is a W wave, this is an X wave, and then either we are still within a Y wave where we have this as A, B, and C, in which case we'll be looking for a direct drop to the downside here. Alternatively, what we could see is potentially that push to the upside again for an X wave here. Now, if we are looking at this as an X wave, what we'd be looking for is the potential that we could see this push up one more time into this channel. Now, this would be quite an interesting area because this could potentially bring us back up to this 1887, which would be looking to actually re-challenge this high here. So this could be quite an interesting zone here. If we do look to push up into this area, we could look to actually re-challenge this zone. Now, if we are looking for that possibility of having this break to the downside after this point, what we'd be looking for as a target would be this 1603 area. So this would actually actually bring us back into this this ascending trend line here. And if we were looking at this as a potential where our support zone is, we could see that this would be towards this golden pocket area, towards this 1624 to this zone here of this 1601. So if we did get a move down here in this manner, this would actually look to bring us back into this golden pocket, in which case what we could be looking for is that potential to reverse to the upside. So we need to be aware that this is a zone that we could actually look to test if we do continue to form a corrective move here. Now, if we want to argue that this move is actually not forming in something like this as a WXYXZ, what you could also say is that, potentially we could still see a flat within the structure. And this is one of the things we've been talking about for a while. Because we haven't actually broken down past this low, it is technically possible we could start to be building this as a bigger 5-wave move, in which case we'd see something like this, looking to bring us back up into some of these higher levels, possibly into this channel line. The problem is, if we're just looking at it as into the channel line, we'd have to argue that we're getting a truncation within this C wave, and we would be looking for, potentially this lower target of this 1877. Typically speaking, we do look for this this 1-to-1 if we're going to look for a running flat, but it is possible to technically close this C wave at this 0.618 of this A wave here, which is this 1877. Now, if we are looking at this in this way, what we would be looking for in the internals was actually looking for either this C wave being a diagonal pattern, in which case what we are looking for is something like this, where we treat this move here as basically ABC into this high. Then we'd be treating this as wave 2. We'd be looking for another 3-wave move here to the upside, looking for this potential of actually coming up into this zone of this 1-to-1, which is here, this 1862. Now, if we did get a 3-wave move to the upside like this, which actually breaks this wave 1 high, this would tie in with the idea of having a diagonal. Now, a diagonal would invalidate by actually pushing up past this 1880, because then this wave 3 would be longer than the wave 1. Wouldn't invalidate it as a expanding diagonal, but typically speaking, we look for contracting diagonals first because they are more common. Now, if we did move up above this 1880, it would invalidate the idea of this being a contracting diagonal, where we could actually see this move fall shorter, which would tie into that idea of actually coming into this trend line again. So this is why I'm looking out for this possibility here. If we get a 3-wave move to the upside here in an ABC, which looks to target out this 1862, I will be then looking to see if we get a retracement back and overlapping this wave 1. An interesting zone would actually be this area here towards this 1826, because this would be coming back into these previous highs, as well as potentially retesting the center channel line. And then what we'd be looking for would be another 3-wave move to the upside. So now, if we did have to have a retracement down towards this zone here of this 1839, what we'd then be looking for would be a 5th wave, which cannot cross this 1950. Now, what we'd want to see is these moves actually getting smaller in size. This 3rd wave would be smaller than the 1st. The 5th wave would be smaller than the 3rd. So this is what we'd be typically looking for if we're going to form a diagonal at this point. Now, the other way we can look at this is that potentially we have a 5-wave move that is still forming out here, where we treat this as a 1-2, and what we're looking for is this 1950. So this 1950 would be a typical zone. We look for a 3rd wave, so that would be this blue count here. Now, what we'd have to argue then is that within this count here, that basically we have a diagonal pattern where this becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as a diagonal. Now, what we'd then be talking about is saying that this move to the downside is corrective in a wave 2, and then we'd be looking for this 3rd wave to the upside. Now, within this yellow count, given the current targets, this 5th wave would only move up towards this 1906 to this 1892. So this actually ties in more with the idea of the corrective move to the upside, where this becomes ABC or WXY, however you want to label it. In this case, if we get a 5-wave move, it would be a ABC. If it's a 3-wave move, potentially WXY. But what we'd be looking for is if we just get this yellow 5-wave count here, this could actually just mean that this is a corrective move and we could look to break down. However, as long as we hold this low, potentially we can still look to find support here and look to progress up. So we need to just bear that in mind. As long as this low holds here towards this 1771, we can potentially look to continue up here. Now, if we do get a push up to this 1950, what I'd then be anticipating is an additional 4th and a 5th. And this would actually look to tie into that idea of that flat correction, And what we'd then be looking for is that potential to actually push up in this fifth wave and look to bring us up into this 1-to-1, which is sitting here neatly at this 1967. So some interesting zones, if we do look to push up towards this area, is of this previous range here. We can see we do have this value area high, which is sitting up here towards this zone of this 1928. So this could be quite an interesting area if we do look to push up here. Obviously, we are currently consolidating around this point of control here. So if we manage to get back above this, this could actually indicate that we could see some movement to the upside here. Alternatively, if we do look to break down one more time, value area low here towards this zone of this 1706 would then become quite an interesting area to keep an eye on as well. Now, some other things that I want to talk about here, I'm just going to turn these off, is that if this is a corrective move to the upside, what we could see is that, this could also be something like this, where we're actually forming a triangle. So this would tie into the idea of this of an X wave in this position. It wouldn't really tie into the idea of the other count. What I'd be looking out for here is that potentially within this move, we could actually see this X wave develop as a triangle. Now, what we'd be looking for here is basically that this would be our A wave, this would be our B wave, and we're looking for the C wave. So technically speaking, we can argue this C wave could be here, in which case what we could either here, actually it could even be here where this is ABC, this could then be our D wave, and then we could be looking to form this E wave. So what we'd be looking out for here is if we just get a single three-wave move, ABC, and this breaks down and actually takes the origin of the move here towards this zone of this 1740, then we could actually have a triangle confirmed within this, and we could see this move break down. However, it is also still possible technically that we could be within the C wave. Now, if we are within the C wave, what we could actually see is a move up here towards this 1837. Now, I say this 1837 for the fact that this is a 0.618 of this A wave. So if we do look at this as A, B, and C, the 1-to-1 is actually here at this 1851. Moving up above this high of this A wave at this 1846 would invalidate this move. Also moving below this zone of this 1771 would invalidate the potential of this triangle. But we need to keep an eye out. This could be developing into a bigger triangle here, or alternatively, like I said, our C wave is here, our D wave is here. We get a three-wave move up in an E, and then we break down in a bigger way. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this if we're looking for that potential of a breakdown, because this could be something that sneaks up on us. So keep an eye on this area here. What we could also just have is that we have a bigger WXY, where this is W, this is X, and we're getting an A, B, and a C. So this 1-to-1, like I said, 1851 is that target area, which would actually bring us back into this high here. But if this does look to push up higher here and extend out, we do have the 1-to-1 of the Y wave if we treat this as a W up here at this 1879, which would also bring us back into this channel, which would also potentially look to retest this high here. So that could be quite an interesting zone to keep an eye on. Now, I just want to also talk about the Ichimoku at the moment, because we are currently sitting on the bottom of this 4-hour cloud. If we did have a move to the top of this channel, we could see how this would actually bring us into the top end of the 4-hour cloud. As well as that, if I turn on the 8-hour cloud, we can see here that that would also tie into the idea of coming back into the zone. If we did, however, form a bigger 5-wave move, potentially this what this could end up doing is we could actually see this develop as a 5-wave structure and actually retest this high of this cloud once again. So we'll be keeping an eye on this area. As well as that, within the 8-hour cloud here, we can see that we do have the baseline, which is sitting here at this 1779 as well, which would tie in with that 1-to-1 of that Y wave. So a move to the upside here towards this zone could potentially look for rejection. We do have some levels within that. Now, another thing I want to just talk about is, because we have a new week here, what we could actually see, if I come into the hourly, so we can see here on the weekly spread of the CPR lines that we have a very tight weekly CPR in the middle here. This indicates the potential for volatility. Now we can see that we do have some of the S1 lines here towards the upside, which it would be here at this 1843. This one's particularly interesting to me, this 1882. And then we do have the higher one here at this 1919. So this could be quite an interesting area if we do look to actually break to the upside. This would tie into the idea of coming into this channel and then potentially actually looking to have a bigger retracement to the downside, where we're actually looking for some continuation down. So this would be looking at this in this way. We do need to bear in mind that the monthly ones are slightly different, are different to these. And what we'd be looking for here is the fact that a move back to the upside here would bring us back into the central CPR lines here. So this is why I'm looking for that potential of a move up here. If we do get a rejection in this zone, this could then indicate that we could see a move down towards some of these lower lines. So this one directly below us is sitting at the 1708, and below that we have the 1546. And then finally, lower down here, we have this 1328. So this is just something I'm keeping an eye on as well as we move up into these levels. Potentially, we could see some rejections off these zones. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video, and leave us some feedback down below. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.